Just like the street lights lit this town, like a fire in a blaze, gotta burn it down.
Alright, here we are, folks.
Can't be afraid to leave this out. We got this far, don't know how. I see danger in our eyes. They know we'll burn down the night. Coming just like the sunrise. You know that we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Tonight, we gonna let it away. Just like the sunrise, we gonna let it away.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since Simon's down in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa. Hello, folks. Welcome back to Chris Wyatt Reports. This is Chris live in central Pennsylvania. Hey, listen, it's a Sunday, May 5th, 2024. We got that commie May Day out of the way. That's gone behind us now. So the socialist communists have had a little festival. They continue to have their festival here in the United States by prancing around college campuses and demanding vegan-free food as part of their terroristic demands over their pro-Hamas support here in America. But hey, listen, not going to talk about politics, and we're not going to talk about the election season in the United States or South Africa this morning. We're here to talk this morning about something very different. You know, of course, for those of you who follow me know I'm an can't speak today, an energy industry analyst among many other things. And this morning we have Johan Bosman, who's going to talk to us about solar photovoltaic safety. It's an issue that we all should be concerned about. Now, I'm a little nervous as we hear what Johan's got to say, because do I need to update my fire extinguishers and have them handy because I've got solar panels in my roof? And with that, good morning to Johan Bosman. Hochhandit, Johan.
Hi, Colonel. Thanks a lot, Colonel Chris, for, I don't know, I was in the military, so I've got very much respect for ranks. So I'm going to struggle to get that out of it. But yeah, it's going good. Nice and sunny still here by us. And yeah, I'm not here to scare anybody. Awareness is the main thing that we want to do, because it's crazy. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, I think that's probably a fair statement to say up front. I'm not afraid. I mean, but people do need to be aware of issues that, you know, of concern. So for instance, the panels look harmless, and they should be harmless almost all the time. But they're, with anything electronic that involves the electrons going different directions, going back and forth, you can have shortcomings. Look at the Japanese lander that's on the moon. It's having a little trouble. You know, that thing was supposed to be falling silent because the temperatures are so low overnight. But the 2-week cycle of darkness, when it was in, it's come out of it 3 times in a row now. They're absolutely amazed that that thing actually works after the freezing temperatures and then the boiling temperatures during the day. So the point is, folks should be informed, and that's what we're here to talk about. So tell us a little bit about your organization. I think you're with, is it Ltvtech, or can you tell us a little bit about that, and then why we're going to talk about solar photovoltaic?
Yes. Okay. We basically are a company that try to specialize in safety, mitigation, prevention on solar panels. Where we got to it, I've used to install. I was a cowboy back in the days, went to a farm, no electricity. My grandparents didn't have electricity. So back in 2000, sounds not too far away, but it's 24 years, gone. I had to start get my own things, and solar was not the biggest panels I could get then, was 100-watt panels. So we started off, and that was my university. I had a privilege. My father-in-law is an electrical engineer. He passed away a few years back. But we developed our own things, and I studied also electrical engineering. I didn't finish, but I think I've got a little bit of ADHD. And I've been in the military, went to college. But yeah, it put me in the right direction. So our company, basically what we did, we started off with 2008, South Africa had the first load shedding. Then we were more into generators, having solutions there. And when the market went up, that sudden surge, we got knocked. And back in 2022, the same thing happened with the load shedding again, since South Africa, basically. And then I just realized I'm not going to stick with the products. I'm not going to stick with the installations. I've got to move on because I know it's going to fall sometimes. And yeah, people are in that stage now. All the installers are really struggling since September. It's not going that good, but there's so many products coming in. The technology moves so fast. So we actually focus now on the safety, and we got to excellent solutions, excellent preventions. But yeah, it's not to do awareness. The people think that you want to scare them, and I mean that's definitely not our focus. So we got some very good products, solutions, and yeah. So we took hands. I've got a very safe place, and yesterday was International Firemen's Day. So yeah. We know they've got lots of problems, not just with the solar panels, also with the lithium batteries. So we moved towards safety, prevention, and mitigation. Yeah.
Well, it raises an interesting question. Let's throw this one out there. I mean, I'm sure a lot of South Africans are aware of this, and I don't think we even know the final answer on this. Famously, not all that long ago, when I was in South Africa, just days before I went there, the Vodacom Century City building caught on fire. It was initially blamed on solar panels. Then later they said it was an electrical fault, which doesn't necessarily, give the solar panels a free pass because they are electrical. That was a huge one, which woke a lot of people's eyes up going, wait a second, what are these things on our roofs? Are they safe? And arguably they're safe in almost all instances. But do you know anything about that situation in Century City? Can you enlighten us a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's the main thing. Worldwide, we struggle to get the correct data. It needs to be reported, and we need to get where did it start, all those things. Sometimes but they must be able to plot it somewhere. And I know in the UK, and now also starting in the USA, they changed the forms where you can fill in, so that we must work on the data. We work with the insurance companies. We try to tell them, listen, there's a problem here. They see it, but it's very difficult to plot exactly. But eventually, the solar panels, if it's on your roof, doesn't matter. And that's the thing that we say. Doesn't matter. Solar panels by design is safe, but there's human factors, there's electrical faults, there's all those type of things. But any fire in your home with solar panels on makes it hard for the first responders to come and mitigate the fire safely. So that was basically the main thing. It opened eyes. There's lots of people working. Sometimes we feel like we're alone, but it's not, like I say, it's not. That's why we thank you for opening the platform, because it's not, at this stage, people are pushing products. There's targets every country needs to face from, I didn't even know it, I don't have time, and I appreciate politics, but I don't really have time to focus on that. But you get to it, there's targets for 2030, 2040, 2050. And the people, that's not going to end. It's pushed all over the world. Yesterday, or no, on Friday, Thursday, they got the new the fire safety guidance. They washed it out, put it out, and it was also done with Slovenia. And yesterday, a building again burned. So yeah, these things happen. But at the end of the day, we must know there's lots of risks, and it's not always the installers, but there's a few things that's really problems, and there is ways to mitigate that, and there is products, but yeah, it's last thing that's on the mind.
Well, it's interesting, and back to the Century City fire for Vodacom, it does bring up a thought that I think a lot of people don't really put in their minds. And that is, in fact, that having panels on your roof does present a challenge for firefighters and for first responders. Number one, it's not easy simply to climb all over your roof to put a fire out because you've got these panels, which are difficult to walk on. Number two, the distance between the panel and the roof itself may present a challenge in getting fire retardant, flame retardant, or water up in there to stop a fire. So it may make it challenging, but that, I would imagine, comes down to training for firefighters. There are ways to mitigate that and to deal with that with those panels under. So that's probably something that is important for firefighters to address. Now, here in America, we have a very serious challenge at the moment. Most of our firefighters around the country are actually volunteers. Volunteer firemen. We communities organize these things and they respond, and we raise funds, sometimes through tax measures, oftentimes through fundraisers and donations, to train and equip our firefighters. It's only the big municipalities that have professional firefighters in airfields and military bases, places like that. So we've had a real problem here in civic participation in America over the past 20 years. It's declining. It's falling off a cliff. Americans becoming self-interested, self-involved, and not contributing. So that's a challenge. And I imagine for our firefighters, that's probably an issue here because a lot of panels are going on roofs all around me in central Pennsylvania. So is what I said, does that sound accurate about it does present some challenges, but training by firefighters is one way to mitigate and overcome those challenges?
Yes, I think that's the main thing. We've got products, but it doesn't help if you cannot do the training. So that's the first step. That's why these products goes very slow. There's interest in it, but the first thing is if you don't use any product, I mean, you can give anybody anything. If you don't know how to use it, you can give a manual, but it's not as simple. So safe training is very important. Luckily, that's one thing that the pandemic helped us, is that people start to know that you can do e-learning. So there's companies, Fire Risk, that's got these new products. Virtual reality is becoming true now because these products are very expensive to train with. Because it's a premium product, some of it, and so yeah, they use virtual reality basically. That it's like a game. You get scenarios and you learn to fight them. So that's the main thing. At the end of the day, practical training is always better, but at least to get as many people to learn, I mean, that really helps. And yeah, it's there's so much risk. Solar panels, if the sun is shining, it produces. You cannot stop it. Most of the people's got this misconception that it's better. I did actually test yesterday. I've got to do the YouTube video. It's better if you disconnect the load. It is better, but there's always risk. And firemen, the installers cannot even keep up with the technology. We cannot expect the firemen to do courses on how to do this and how. They need a safe and effective, simple solution. You don't have time.
Well, that's a good point. The technology rapidly changing. We've seen the material that goes into PV cells changing itself, gallium and other materials going in there. And so we're seeing thinner wafers, thinner panels than we used to have, which is probably good for load bearing for roofs, and perhaps even has a benefit for firefighting. I don't know. That's just a layman's supposition there. But we have seen a lot of technological advances, and every technological advance that improves things also brings challenges. Nothing is foolproof. And so I suspect that's a challenge, as you said, for firefighters and also for the installers who are having a hard time keeping up with all the changes in the product line.
Yeah, I mean, there's brilliant new technologies coming in, even for, you get these green people and inventions. This month is also electrical fire safety month. So I did a thing about Edison and Tesla, and I mean, it sounds way back, but it's 120 years back that electricity started, with these two and the current war. So it's very interesting, but the same thing has happened now. So moved from DC to AC, and that's the main thing. The people must grasp the difference. We are used to AC electricity, but we're fast moving towards DC, convert to AC back again. But there is risks involved. DC current is something that especially in South Africa as well, what used to be done in the old, when solar was not a hit, we were a few people that had a passion for it, for the technology. And most of it, we did courses with the OEMs. So you were passionate and you worked with the electrician to a point, and they did the AC side. Suddenly it changed, because for safety reasons, but now the AC guys went into DC, and it's difficult. I don't want to hammer on them, but if you're so long used to AC electricity, you don't seem to get that DC electricity is very dangerous. There's an arc. It doesn't stop. It keeps on pushing, either from the battery side or from the solar side. It's a direct current. It's like a flowing river. You cannot put a dam wall. It will flow over.
Well, before we get into some specific questions about home issues and home panels, just for the audience, not everybody is familiar with some of these terms. You're in the industry, so let me help out. OEM, original equipment manufacturer. It's an industry term that's used, and I know it because I build computers. So OEM equipment, and the same from automobile manufacturers. And rather than getting a part produced or a piece produced by a third party, you're getting it from the original manufacturers, so that you know that it meets the specifications and fits properly. There's nothing worse than ordering a part for your wash machine that says it fits in a Samsung washer and it doesn't. It fits in a Daewoo washer. So that kind of sucks. So OEM, original equipment manufacturer. And of course, AC/DC is not a rock band. We're talking about alternating current and direct current. Of course, alternating current is where it switches back and forth, and direct current, it just keeps flowing until it uses its target or it hits the ground. Did I get that? Is that a good layman's description?
Perfect.
All right. Well, cool beans. Well, let's go ahead and get into, a lot of people are probably going to watch this or are watching who have home solar installations, especially in South Africa, where Eskom is a corrupt, incompetent, malfeasant, horrible state institution, which has destroyed South Africa's economy. Not single-handedly, it's had a lot of help from others, but the point is that it's unreliable, and many people no longer rely on it. They've gone off-grid either for solar, photovoltaic, some with wind turbines, not so many, but a lot of battery storage also going on. So what are some hazards? I mean, I have solar panels, but it's all goes through the inverter. I mean, I either use it directly during the day, which is not right now. It's rainy and cloudy, so I'm not drawing from the main grid. But I either use it directly and then feed the surplus through the inverter from direct current, converting it into alternating current to go into the grid and then get a credit for that. But I don't have battery storage. And one is because the scam that the state came up with that allowed me to get solar panels for free. They do not include batteries, and I was fine with that. My personal view is I don't want a 900-pound battery in my basement that might be dangerous. So any thoughts on that? And so let's get into that. Let's talk about the challenges of solar photovoltaic panels for residential installation. What are some of the potential risks? And again, not to frighten people, these things rarely happen, but you need to be informed.
Yeah, I mean, we can only use the data. So worldwide, there's been studies done and everything. So very difficult to give the people really statistics. So awareness is the best thing that we think that we can do. But it's under 0.0 something percent that it will burn. But then there's also a thing, because it's 25 years, they say there will be some sort of arcing problems with a system in 25 years. So somewhere along the line, you will have to look at it. So first of all, there's lots of things. If we start with the panels, it's simple, basic things. Lots of technology in it, but so yeah, for people that's not very technical, it's in a string. So it's the whole panel is in a string, so it moves all around. So stupid things like just a hotspot, and a hotspot is created by either shading, or it could be a bird dropping, just a bird dropping on your panel. So the main thing again is maintenance as well. People, and how do you clean it? Then there's another thing that we must learn the people is don't try to do it on your own. Lots of volts, especially the latest. When we started off, you didn't get MPPTs, and that's the charge controller that was more than 150 volts. So it was kind of safe. But now we get systems that goes up to 1,500 volts. So there's a huge thing. So it's not always safe to do it yourself. So get a good cleaning company. If your installer cannot do it yourself, let him get somebody. So cleaning maintenance is the main thing. But yeah, again, to get the panels on the roof, then it always starts with the installation. According to regulations, it changes, but human error, there's always human error involved. So on your panels, between your panels, there's two clips that the one panel clips into the other one, and we call that an MC4 connector. Very important for the people to, the installers must do that correctly, and that is one of the weakest points, because if it starts corroding, if it's not clicked in correctly, that will create an arc, and a DC arc is something else. It just starts burning. It could take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, but it will get to a point where it will start to burn. But you could still be fine. Your system can be, but maintenance again, if you don't clean your panels, what's underneath your panels, depends on what roof you are on. Is your gutters clean? Because that arc will fall onto your gutter. So if it falls inside your gutter with leaves on, it will start to ignite, and then the problem starts. So again, it's installation, maintenance, and yeah, then from there on, your wires that goes into your, it all depends. I've seen some terrible things, and then I've seen some people that try to do it very good, but the wires that runs down to your equipment, could be rodents, could be, I know in America they've got problems with the squirrels as well. I had videos from people showing me what doves and pigeons and all these, an animal likes to chew on things, so that's another thing. But again, if you do maintenance, if you've got a good team, they will go through it, and they have to go through it. So again, installation, there needs to be about 100 millimeters between your roof and your panels. I see so many just putting up. I see so many panels that's installed next to the chimney. The chimney's falling onto it. Thermal, if you've got somebody, that's one thing that we try to launch as well. Try to do thermal. It's very advanced to get into, very expensive, but we try to see if we can use thermal on a lesser extent, that each installer needs to have a thermal camera to check the installation after it's installed. So yeah, there's so many things, and especially the bigger projects we've got problems with is not everybody on the team is always trained. You need hands to put the things on. Not everybody has a certificate that works on your installation.
Well, here's a practical question to start right off with from that point. So for those who have a home solar photovoltaic installation, panels, or maybe their business, I'm reticent to, I've only had mine since November, and I'm reticent to even try to clean them right now because my municipal water supply is horrifically mineralized. I mean, it's terrible. It's well water, and it's not treated for, it's just treated for, bacteria and such, but they don't try to demineralize it through reverse osmosis or get it like they get all, so it's got heavy calc content. And the last thing I want to do is spray my panels with a garden hose and then have them coated with calcium and diminish their quality. So is there a way for folks to clean these? If the birds are leaving their droppings up there, or you've got dust up there. In South Africa, dust is an issue that will reduce the efficacy of your panels. Do you hire a cleaning service to come in and do it? And are there reputable ones? How can people go about ensuring they safely keep their panels clean, and how often should they do it? I suppose it depends on the environment you're in. I mean, if you're in the Karoo, you probably have to clean your panels more frequently than, say, in Cape Town, where the wind blows 1,000 knots an hour every day.
Yeah, you see, it all depends. The people are really thinking that the rain can clean it as well, but I mean, all depends where you live as well. If you live next to in the industry, in Johannesburg.
If you live in Vanderbilt Park, you're not going to get clean solar panels from the rain.
Yeah, you might get acid rain, and that's the thing. I say to the people, if you wash your car, what's the best way to wash it? For a car, it's different from panels, but if you take the car's windows, you cannot clean it with normal soap decently. You really have to work it. But iodized water, so the solar companies, cleaning companies, they are very important. And there were so many people going into solar installations that weren't qualified, that could easier, that can focus on a specific thing. But that's one thing that the problem we've got in South Africa is nobody wants to work together. Somebody wants to do everything. And that's very dangerous because you cannot do everything. You cannot do the maintenance and the installations and the cleaning. Although there might be companies that's quite big, and I mean, if they can deliver you professional services on that, that's the way to go. That's the companies you want to get on your premises, but most of it they aren't. But yeah, so do your research, search about it. If a guy comes on with a high pressure hose, that he bought and with his bucky and it gets on the roof, I distribute these videos. You get people walking on the roofs, you get on your solar panels. It's ridiculous. But yeah, so the reverse osmosis, taking out all the elements and a soft brush. There's lots of technology in that as well, and people say this way, that way, that way. But at the end of the day is get a professional company to do it. If they cannot come and your panels is really, really unsafe, the best would be maybe, but then you don't know if there's an arc on your panel. So if you take your gardener and you just spray water on that, he could be electrified. And how are you going to explain that into in the court? So although you want to do something yourself, you would never know. I mean, I think if you've got a safety mind, I mean, we could make it much more worse than it really is, but you never know. Accidents do happen, and we face them every day. You wouldn't believe that something would happen, and it does.
Well, Johan, a lot of people, of course, have inverters because they're still hooked up to the municipal grid from Escom, and same here in the States, hooked up to the local grid. So you have an inverter taking that direct current coming from charging those photons coming in and charging those panels and feeding that into an inverter, which is just a way of taking direct current and turning it into alternating current and vice versa. So are inverters a problem? Do they burn up? Is it unusual, and when it does happen, is it a consequence of the quality of the material? We see much of the solar photovoltaic industry originating these days in communist China, and the quality of goods from there can be superb, but can also be down here. And so is that a concern with the inverters, and are they typically a source of problems, or is that just an oversimplification?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we all know that quality, you must pay for quality. So if the cheaper inverters, why do you want to? I always say to the people, all depends, and that's why I struggled really to do installations as well, because everybody wants to pay want the biggest system as big as possible for the smallest amount of money. And I mean, I would rather say buy quality and just do your essentials. Just do your alarm system. We live in South Africa. You have to look after your security. So your alarm system, your CCTV, your gates, those things. You can do that with a quality 1 kilowatt inverter if you really want, with one lithium. So you don't have to go that big. If you cannot afford it, it's better to do a decent job with that. And just when there's load shedding, you will have a few things that's not workable, but the most of it is not really always the equipment, but the connections. That they fail there, but because they're cheap, they've got crap connections on them. They next to one another, the arc will go. So there's the problem: is the connection, how they are built. And that's the reason why the one is cheap and the other one is not.
Folks, welcome to the program. Thanks for tuning in today, Sunday, May 5th, 2024. I'm Chris in Central Pennsylvania. My guest today is Johan Bosman, and we're talking about from Ltvtech. Did I get it correct? Okay, the Ltvtech. Yes. Yeah, and we're talking about solar photovoltaic safety concerns and issues. Not to frighten people, your system is probably safe, but it all depends on the installer, the connections they make, as he just mentioned here, and the quality of the equipment. All plays a role in this over time. So, from your perspective, what does your company provide for people? And do you provide it to solar installers, your services or products, or is it to home installers? I mean, who can benefit from things that you guys are doing? This is a free ad opportunity for you here.
I've realized with working, trying to get these products, because you sometimes have a product that's quite unique, and you don't really have competition with it because we focus on the security and the other people are chasing the equipment. So we got two solutions and products that are really unique, and that's been in development for long. So one of our premium products is basically a product called PV Stop. So that is to help the firemen to de-energize the system quickly and safely. So basically, how it works is we know if the fire if they're able to, they have to put a fire blanket over the panels to de-energize. As soon as you do that, there's no electricity. But during a fire, that is a very risky thing to do for 5 or 6 guys to get this thing up while it's burning. So they cannot do that. So, and even if there's a fire inside the house, so in South Africa, it will differ. In other countries, we need to get these products to the fire brigades. But as you said, lots of volunteers, lots of South Africa, the municipalities here in my town, there's a firefighter. You can just as well call a farmer, yeah? And the chances are better that your fire would be stopped. But the thing is, it would be difficult. So that's the challenges we have. So we want to bring it to the home. But the product itself is developed in Australia by Dream Forum. He really wanted to join us. He's in Australia, so he will watch it later on. And so if you want to do a follow-up, you can do a very good presentation on the product itself. But I'm just going to cover it quickly. So it's like a rubberizing liquid that they spray over the panels. Quickly, effectively, it's in a fire extinguisher, but it's not a fire extinguisher. So it just basically sprayed over 40% coverage, then the panels is safe. There's so many, it's been developed, I think it's 12 years back. So there's lots of technology, lots of certification, accreditation that went into that. They worked very hard for it. But yeah, they are now used in the New York Fire Department has it. I'm not sure how big it is and at everyone, but they've got it. I saw a fire last 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago that it was in New York, or I'm sure New York is too big, but they didn't use the product there, or that they didn't have it, but they use it. The guy there in the United States is Steve Jansen. So he actually went this week to the U.S. Navy in, where was it, Annapolis. He's going to visit Washington as well. London Fire Brigade uses it. The Singapore Defense Force uses it. So but it's a very slow process. And the training that's the main thing. So we do the training, they do the training as well, you have to do all these education, get it accredited with all the fire guys. So it takes a bit slow, but we're getting there. So it's a very safe product. You simply spray it over. But again, if you cannot get somebody that walks, I don't want to give it to a home and tell the kid to go up, and while going up, he either falls down the ladder, break something. So although it's a very simple and effective solution, the training is very important.
So it sounds like it may be a simple, effective solution, but it needs to be in the hands of trained professionals in order to reach its peak efficacy. That is interesting. You have to wonder, have we put the cart before the horse in some way? with the development of, I mean, we've been developing solar photovoltaic panels for decades. And of course, for a long time, the efficacy was just so low, it wasn't worth the investment for most people. In fact, you were talking earlier about 2.5 decades ago, and I go back 2.5 decades ago living in Southern Africa, and the only solar panels, for the most part, I ever saw were on geysers, you know, if people could heat their water up. But now they're ubiquitous, they're everywhere. Maybe at some point, maybe we missed the obvious as a society, that we need to put more attention into what happens if things go awry. But it sounds like this product you have that, as you mentioned, was developed in Australia is effective. And I don't know if there's other products out there, but it's, I suppose I'm glad to hear that someone is actually looking into this safety issue now. Maybe 25 years ago, we should have been focused on it.
Yeah, I mean, the passion that Jim and they have is incredible, and the love they have for firefighters, the care. And as soon as a firefighter starts using it, you will not use. We try to get competitors. There is one in China that tried to, but they couldn't get. There's so many things that goes in. It's not just a normal product. It has to be. It's fire retardant. It's non-conductive. It's it's water-based. You can peel it off. It can stay on the panels for 1 year. Then you can simply peel it off. So that's during flooding, during hailstorms. All those things is where they can apply it, make the environment safe, and so that, you know, lots of fires also on the panels. What also happens is the secondary fires. So there was a fire with solar panels and the wires got burned. So as soon as the sun comes, there's some brilliant footage. So start educating yourself. Go look at it. Where's these systems? Why it's still burning and lying on the ground? It just arcs. It just goes on and on and on, because it still produces, and now it's cracked, and so that power, it's direct current. It just wants to go somewhere. It seeks Earth. You know, it wants to go down to Earth. You know.
Yeah, you mentioned electricity, just a century old. Of course, electricity isn't a century old. The harnessing of electricity by Homo sapiens is a century old, but electricity's been with us since time immemorial. Nature provides it in the form of lightning strikes all the time. Just ask pilots who are terrified of that sort of thing. You know, as a farmer, we had these huge lightning rods on our barn. We had a barn that was, I don't know, probably about 40, 50 meters in height, maybe bigger. It was a pretty huge barn. And we had these huge lightning rods up on top there because it was a big target, you know, all that wood in that one space, and it just attracted lightning. But always amazed by that. So I have a couple questions from the audience. Let me just bring a couple of those in very quickly for you. I'll ask two to get started here. So John Jarvis says his inverter is a SunSync. And he says it's top of the line. Wants to know if you agree with that. And then before you answer that one, Johan Bosman, who's in the Gauteng area, said he'd like me to ask you about electromagnetic generators. I'm not really sure what that question is, but the first one should be easy. SunSync, any thoughts on that inverter?
Yeah, SunSync, I mean, they are some of the leading brands and a very good brand. They are high-frequency inverters. So there's a difference between a high frequency, low frequency. All depends where you use it at home. Even now in industries, they use it quite a lot. I tend to love, you know, that's my opinion. I love low frequency inverters with transformers. You know, that's the muscle of if you really wants to work hard with it. And the reason why I do that is because I've been using other products, but then I got to products and I've got clients. And I that's one thing that I hate, to go back and fix something. You know, if I want to install something, if I go back, I want to upgrade or something like that. But SunSync are very excellent products, some of the leading brands. But yeah, there's so many brands. We had the Solar and Storage Expo, it was, I think, a month ago. I mean, it's scary to see all the products coming in. It would be difficult to make a choice, but a very good choice.
And the second question there was about electromagnetic generators. I'm not sure what that question was about. Do you have any idea?
I'm not 100% sure what it's referring to, but I will look into it. You can email me. I will look into it. I'm not 100% sure what he's referring to there.
Me either. So hopefully we'll get him to ask another question there. If a fireman can de-energize solar panels, they isolate the fire and let it burn out, says Richard Lemmer. I don't know if that's a claim or a statement. Does that make sense? If the fireman can de-energize solar panels, they isolate the fire and let it burn out.
You see, the occupational health, basically, there's a few things that the firemen must also, they are employed. So they must, if they cannot put their own lives at risk for saving property, you know. Sometimes even lives, you know. The safety first. I mean, that's the main thing, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So that's a sad thing about it, you know, is it might look like they are working hard, and they will try to, but they will spray so many, and that's the other thing, is the water damage on those things. They must try to mitigate this fire, and they will just put water, swimming pools of water around it. And I mean, water damage is just as damageable as the fire itself. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I was trying to adjust something here very quickly. Yeah. So, what other do you have other products, or is that your main product, one we talked about a few moments ago?
No, there's lots of products that I import firstly, and test it and try to feel the market. So we call it rapid shutdown switches. They've been in America, you know, for a while. I got to that product, and then I saw, but there's still lots of issues because they got lots of connections. Again, the human factor, although it's a solution. But yeah, so we're looking, I think rapid shutouts are not very familiar in South Africa, but I do feel there's a place for them. And then another great product is Thermarester. So it's basically a thermal bar that you put inside of your DB box. So they're very familiar with it on the AC side. We tried to implement it in your PV combiner box. So that's the most of the fires that we experience in South Africa comes, especially on these high voltage. Suddenly, you know, the voltages went up, you know. Power is volts times amps equals watts. So you can either ramp up the volts and keep the amps low. The benefit of that is your cables is not that thick, but high voltage, and then you can do it the other way around, like low voltage, big amps. The cables are thick. I tend to love that. If you do that right, it costs you more, but for me, it's safer. But now you got these high voltage inverters and the combiner boxes that comes in. If there's one connection that's you know, an AC, that's one thing. You can still, it will take long and it will melt your breaker, but it won't really ignite. But with DC, I promise you, it will burn. And when it burns, you won't believe. You can use as many fire extinguishers as you want. You have to mitigate the fire. You have to stop it. You have to use a product like PV Stop, or you have to risk somebody has to go and cut the wires. It's been done. I did a whole series, a case study on that. You can go and have a look on the website about that in South Africa. And some good products, SunSync inverters, SunSync batteries. And I mean, one human error, I think they say it was inside it could be a rodent. I don't know. But yeah, still, the risks are there.
Well, rodents, I don't think I've seen too many ANC politicians climbing on roofs. So sorry, couldn't help with that. No, but seriously, a couple things quickly here. We're going to run out of time at the top of the hour here. I've got another guest coming on. But a couple things. Number one, it's difficult to know some of these products too, where they come from. For instance, my solar panel cells, according to the information on my app that shows who manufactures. Now, my inverter comes from Israel, but the panels are manufactured in America, but by a German company. But if you look closely, it's actually a South Korean company with a German headquarters. But the good news is they're not Chinese. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I spoke with lots of the manufacturers, you know, most of them have you cannot beat the prices that they can do it. But there's some of these companies, although it's manufactured in China, They've got the engineers there. They live there. They stay there. It's just manufacturing there. They developed everything. So most of the things comes from China. I import things from China as well. You start to meet where to seek. Very difficult to find out who's the real guy and the product you have. I know already what it is. It's a solar edge. They far ahead with I mean, it's brilliant product with fire safety as well. So you've got a very good product, but not everybody will have that. But I mean, there's still the human error. Although it's a good system, maintenance is still important. And I think that's the main thing as well. Cleaning, maintenance, and your installer. Your product is also important, but those three things are very important.
Well, I have to tell you, Johan, I wasn't bringing you on to get affirmation that I had the right product, but you've just told people that with Solar Edge, I do have the right product. So that's reassuring to know. But listen, you were talking a little bit ago, of course, direct current. Wow. But the old adage, it's not the volts, it's the amps that'll kill you. It is the current that will take you down. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm not a medical doctor, but what I know is if everything is correct, I think it's 0.1 amps that needs to go through your heart, and then it could be fatal, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, it's I think there's still a debate. I want to go and I'm not going to test it. I just trust it.
Yeah, I think I'll just listen to the adage and try to avoid electricity.
But I must be honest, you know, I didn't know. I've been in the installations for a lot until I stepped out of it and really looked into the design. And I do my own experiments. I did one yesterday. Because sometimes it's just difficult. You cannot see it on the paper. I have to see it. But I've been working on systems for very long, and I thought, oh, man, this is safe. You touch everything until once. When the guy didn't have a decent disconnect, and I told the client, listen, where's the switch? And he said, no, it doesn't have to be a switch. And I told him, I cannot just connect it. It's going to make an off. But there was a few, I didn't know how many panels was on top. And when I put that thing on, and it just, it sounded like a whip, you know, and I just saw this. I must start having respect for it. You know, I knew that will happen. It's the same as if you put your car battery on your vehicle. You know, if you do it, you know, if you don't do it fast, you will see the DC, and that's. But I mean, these systems are loaded. Some of the systems 1,500 volts. The amps could go 600 amps. So yeah, it's frying.
That's quite a jump from what used to be just 150 to 1,500. That'll really get your attention. Quite a change. Now, John Jarvis asked another question, and this is an interesting, I think, one too, because as I said, a lot of people are getting solar panels at residential installations, but with the inverter feeding juice into the grid back and forth, whether you draw from it or feed into it. So he says that during the daytime when he's drawing power, that he is turning off ESCOM. By that, I assume he means he's disconnecting his inverter to the grid. And he said it seems to work nicely. Does it make sense? Is that a prudent thing to do? I mean, it's not something I'd thought about.
Yeah, if his system was designed good, and I mean that's the main thing as well. We've got a thing that people do you know, just an advertisement saying, listen, this inverter, 2 batteries, 10 panels. You will never know if it's going to work for you, but that's the thing that they will do. But for some people it will. So his system, most probably, he had a good installer that went through his whole system, put clamp meters on, do analysis, see when do you need what. Some people, I think really, some people waste their money because nobody is at home during the day when the sun is shining. Now they're facing in the north, and the panels your batteries are charged at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then you're sitting there. So if you don't feed the grid, but yeah, so it could be, if he must just maybe hear from his installer, that could be done automatically. He can do settings that that can that will do that automatically for him. Yeah.
Well, we've got folks that are putting some comments in here, have some background in the electrical field. Garrett mentioned the term impedance and or impedance. When I saw impedance, I thinking of blue pills and impedance, but I'm not sure where he was going with that. But no, he's just talking about it. So anyway, but seriously. So we've talked about some of the things that people at home installation can focus on, of course, and that's cleaning the panels, getting it done professionally. Is that, again, that depends where you're at. I mean, if you're in a dusty place, you probably have to do it periodically. I'm guessing in many places, maybe semi-annually might be enough. If you don't have a lot of dust, does that make sense? Or now if you're in a place with a lot of birds, you might have to do a lot more frequently.
I think that, you can train yourself. There's courses. Go on my website. It's not that much. I just put the link there. It's a guy, cannot remember the association in America, but he's got an online course there that you can, if you don't know nothing, just do the course. Then you can do it yourself. Then you know how to do it. You know how to look for the risks, and you can do it professionally yourself, or if you want to do a business with it, you can, but educate yourself. Just don't go into it and try to do it. I mean, it's like from my side, yes, disconnect your load. If you really have to do it and you feel you have to do it, disconnect your load, disconnect everything. And use not too many, there must not be acids in. So some people will say, they just use normal sunlight liquid, not, you can clean your panels yourself. I don't want to say you cannot do that, but if you can do somebody that you can rely on, just don't give it to the guy that's working in your garden and let him do it every week. He doesn't know how to do it.
Yeah, well, I'm also not going to be cleaning my own panels. And as I said, for the reason, that water, it's bad enough I have to replace the shuttlecocks that are inside the shower pipes periodically because they calc up. And then it spins around. It breaks the handle and it doesn't actually turn the shuttlecock. And then that first time that happened to me, I couldn't shut the water off. I had to go to the basement and shut the main off in order to shut the shower off upstairs. There was no shut off. I mean, under my sinks, I can turn the water off, but there's no way to shut the shower off. So I would have been spending a lot of money for water. But that water is well water, and it's really full of mineral content, and I'm not putting that on my panels. But I will say this, it is interesting. Now, let me ask you this question. Not an issue for South Africans, but an issue here in the Mid-Atlantic and the Northern Hemisphere. So I noticed that of 3 solar installations in my neighborhood, I seem to have the best good fortune when snow falls. What I mean by that is that I think the pitch of my roof is just right so that the weight, as the temperature gets close to freezing, it starts to melt on there and it sloughs all the snow and it just slides off into my backyard. Whereas my neighbor's entire roof is covered on the back. His sits there for 2 or 3 days after that, and he barely gets any solar production. And the guy up the street gets there a little bit quicker. But I think that maybe the pitch of my roof played a role in, and I can imagine that is an issue. I mean, if your roof is like this or if it's like this, has an impact on how much power you're going to get, and then the impact of obviously if it's like this, there are going to be fewer birds trying to hang out on it than if it's like this. So pitch probably plays a big role in putting your panels on. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, also for efficiency, depends. You can do these calculators that will tell you on your location exactly what would be the perfect pitch for and where the shading would be if you put 2 strings on. So all those things plays a role. But I mean, on snow, I saw snow once in South Africa, so I don't have lots of experience on snow. But I saw some, being in the market, I saw the solutions that the people use. And I mean, the new thing that's going up is vertical panels. That's a new technology. They put it vertically, totally, especially in those, and also in the farming, and on roof structures. That's one thing that I didn't get to. That I think that is the way to go. But I mean, there will be so many panels already being installed that won't go with. You cannot change now. But if you're in the market now, just look ahead. Don't just go for the next quote. Just look ahead. They're pretty close.
Well, you raised a topic and we're short on time, so maybe we'll address it in a different time and discuss this again. But the installation of vertical solar photovoltaic panels, which is catching on now, and I find it interesting. And one of the reasons the argument's made is because when it's too hot, too much direct sunlight, that lowers the efficacy of panels and can harm them over time. So we won't get into that right now. We'll talk about it. Let me give you a chance to, first off, please send me the link to your site. I didn't have that handy, so I didn't put it in the description. I'll put it in the description and any social media links that you want people to know about so they can find you and your business. I'll add that into the description a little bit later on. But a last moment here, any final thoughts about PV safety and the installation? Because South Africans are not shying away from it. 6% of electricity demand is gone now. Well, it's actually more than 6%. It's more like 6 gigawatts, I think, is what we're approaching, something like that. But any thoughts on solar PV as we wrap up, Johan?
Yeah, I think if you've got panels installed on your roof, just don't we get too comfortable with the system. Just make sure that you know your system, ask the right questions, get to people. Have the maintenance is very important, and your cleaning of the panels, look after them. It's your investment. In any investment, you have to take out the risks as well. Otherwise, you will lose your money. And this is the same with it is an investment. You invested in it. So yeah, seek for the products. There's excellent solutions. We will get to a point where the insurance companies will also realize that you did the right thing. You mitigate the risks. You will be, that will come. We cannot promise it now, but yeah, it's on its way.
Well, there you have it, folks. Johan Bosman from Ltvtech. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. Johan, I'll let you drop off and I'll wrap up the broadcast. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye, donkey, and we'll chat again.
Thanks a lot. We really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, and we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, I'll let Johan drop off and I'll wrap this up. Next up on the program, we have Neil de Beer from, whoops, his camera's, just a second here, folks. There we go. Okay. So next up, we have Neil de Beer from the UIM, President, United Independent Movement, who'll be on here in about 3 minutes. So I got to drop off. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to hit the like button if you don't mind. We really appreciate that. And hang around for Neil de Beer. I think we've got you automatically directed towards that. Let me just double check on that. And I'll check before we disappear. No, it's not there. So we're going to have to fix that very quickly here. And Neil de Beer, there we go. So we've got some more folks tomorrow coming on, including... is it tomorrow or Tuesday? Mark Oppenheimer. Anyway, thanks a lot. We'll see you here in just a moment with Neil de Beer with my old khaki shirt on. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your support for the program, and we'll catch you shortly. Bye-bye.